Jesus was a rock star.
Principle is we are faith-filled, big thinking, bet the farm risk takers. We will never insult God with small thinking or safe living. We want to be a people that do a little more. We want to be a people that don't just look at the status quo, but we want to say, God, we just want to give you all of it. And so that's today. That's the principle today. And just to note, next week we're going to be spiritual contributors, not spiritual consumers. That's next week. Philosophically, and this is down deep in my heart, when you come to a church, if you come to a church and you are a mature Christian, the reality is that you're actually not the one that we are looking to minister to that much, which is, maybe that's kind of broke. I think it, but the reality is I view us, not as a social club, not as a place for you to come and just learn how to be nice to your kids and have good finances and maybe make it into heaven by the hair of your chinny chin chin. That's not my vision for you. The way I look at you, if you've been serving Jesus for a while, is we are on a team. And the team is to make disciples. That's our whole calling, is to make disciples. Jesus said, go and make disciples. And so that's what we're about. And so I love you guys so much because you do so well. We'll talk about that more. Spiritual contributors. We will do anything short of sin to reach one more person for Jesus. In other words, where do you draw that line of what you won't do? Did I play Sister Sledge and the Mudhoney's last year? No, we will. Okay, anyway, I'll share that with you that week. Because anyway, we will lead the way with irrational generosity. We truly believe it's more blessed to give than to receive. We do that. And then we are but this is today, big thinking, bet the farm, risk takers. Now, some of you will be able to say that if you know the answer to this, yell it out at me because you've heard it for a few years. When were the 2 times that Jesus was amazed? Yell it out at me, somebody. Twice Jesus was amazed, Scripture says. I think it's the only 2 times. Yes, Shawnee. Yes, he did get mad at the temple. That's absolutely right. But there's twice when the Scriptures usually specifically use the word amazed. Well, he was amazed at 2 things. He was amazed when people had great faith, and he was amazed when people had little faith. Let's look at those verses. Mark chapter 6, verse 5, it says, and because of their unbelief, he couldn't do any miracles among them, except place his hands on a few sick people and heal them. So that was like the low bar. Well, they didn't have any faith, but he only got to heal a couple. And he was amazed at their unbelief. And then Jesus went from village to village, teaching the people. So when you don't have faith, he's like, how can you not have faith? You've been watching me. You've been seeing me. And in this particular case, he even heals a couple of people, but they still didn't have much faith. But then there was the low bar. They didn't have any faith, but he only got to heal a couple. And he was amazed at their unbelief. And then Jesus went from village to village, teaching the people. So when you don't have faith, he's like, how can you not have faith? You've been watching me. You've been seeing me. And in this particular case, he even heals a couple of people, but they still didn't have much faith. But then there was another time. Luke 7:9, it says, when Jesus heard this, he was amazed, turning to the crowd and saying, I tell you the truth, I've not seen faith like this in Israel. And he had, this was the centurion when he said, hey, you go to my house, and he said, you have great faith. So Jesus was amazed at two things. He was amazed at a lack of faith, and he was amazed at great faith. And I when he looks at America, what do you think he sees? Just take a minute. I'm going to give you just a couple beats. When he looks at America, what do you think he sees? Great faith or a lack of faith? If he was to look at your life, give you just a couple of beats here, would Jesus be amazed at your great faith? Or would he be amazed at how little your faith is? Just hold that in your head. Now, today, well, I'm supposed to have this slide up, but just keep that in your heart and mind for a minute. Because the reality is that you can't play it safe and please God. It's just not how he works. That's not how he does things. God geared you, he geared us to be stepping out into some great things. Now, it might not be terribly visible things, and we may talk about that again some other time, but you can't play it safe and please God. There's going to come a day when he's going to ask you to do something audacious. Maybe it's talking to this person. Maybe it's praying for healing for somebody. Maybe it's giving in a certain way, whatever it might be. There's going to come a day in your Christian walk, if you're doing it right, there's going to come a day when he's going to put his finger on you and he's going to ask you to do something that takes a lot of faith, because you're like, this is a God could only do it situation. This is only God, only way this works is if you show up. Hebrews 11:6, and this is the faith chapter. When I wasn't driving yet, so I couldn't have been more than 15, and I think I was 14. I got this this daily Bible reading plan. And my John Peterson gave me this book. This book had a plan in it, and the plan was you would read 10 chapters a day. You would read Pentateuch, that's the first 5 books. Then you'd read some church history. Then you would do a proverb. Then you would do a Psalms, and you would do a gospel. Then you would do I'm going to miss one of them, aren't I? You would do an epistle, and then you would read chapter 11 of Hebrews every day. And so you'd get Psalms done every month, but Hebrews every day. This person says, so I read Hebrews 11 every day. It's the faith chapter. And we pick this up. It is impossible. Somebody say impossible. Thank you for working with me this morning. I appreciate that. It is impossible to please God without faith. Sometimes you've maybe been in a situation where you're like, this is hard. Why is it so hard? The answer is, it was always God's plan that you're not enough. There was never a time when God's plan was for your life was that all of the talent was in you, that all of the ability was in you. It was always his plan that you would not be enough. That's why faith is so valuable. That's why it's sometimes if you are there's one time when Jesus was given different gifts to people, and he gave, this is a parable, I'm super paraphrasing, but some people got 1 talent, and other people got 10 talents. And of course, that was a test for them. And I always thought of myself as like a 3-talent person in my head. I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I'm not completely, without any talents. But that was always God's plan, because only when we are willing to be humble enough to take a step out, when we know that if God doesn't show up, I don't have a chance. And the Bible says it's impossible to please God without faith. I'm a little insecure to tell you this right now, but I'm working on something right now, and it's called the step of faith. And because everything in our Christian walk that means anything is a step of faith. So I'm going on. Anyone who wants to come to him must believe that God exists, and that he rewards those who sincerely seek him. Now, look at those words for a minute. Sincerely seek him. I think that in our culture, in our American look at Christianity, I don't think there's a whole lot of sincerely seeking happening. I think there's a lot of grandstanding. I think there's a lot of virtue signaling. I think that there's a lot of, having all your right words in the right place. But even when I look in the Christian church, I do not see a whole lot of sincerely seeking happening. We'll unpack that here in just a little bit. And so never let your pride keep you from faith. In other words, it doesn't matter what other people think. It doesn't even matter what you think you should be doing. I encourage you to get yourself in a position where you're just saying, yes, God. This Christian walk is actually fantastically easy. All you do is you just keep on saying yes to him. That's all you got to do. And when you fail, you just come back, you say yes to him. But what we tend to do is that our pride makes us build this shell that we have to look like something. And then we say no, thank you to him, instead of saying yes to him. So you can have faith, or you can have control, but you can't have both. If you have control, you're not using your faith. You can't have both at the same time. You can't have faith and control at the same time. Faith is when you are stepping out into, if you don't show up, God, this doesn't work. If you don't do something, God, this doesn't have a chance. As long as you have a guarantee, you don't have faith. Someone says to me, well, I've had lots of people say, this to me over the years. They say, "Oh, Scott, I'm just waiting on God." And because I know that when Elijah was praying, God was in the silence, and so I just gotta wait on God. And I think that there's no step of faith there. Waiting is easy. You know what's much harder is taking a step of faith when you don't have clear directions from Him, and when doing the good work, even when you're not quite sure it's even doing much good. And I want to go on a tangent there, but I'm going to keep moving forward. And so, in order to step towards your destiny, you have to step away from your security. Now, because God asked all of His heroes, He asked all of them to do that. Look at Abraham. In the faith chapter. Abraham, he comes and he says, it was by faith that Abraham obeyed God, and he was called to leave his home and go to another land that God would give him as his inheritance. He went, and I love this verse. Oh, I love it so much. Because what I just told you, some people say, well, I'm just going to sit here and pray until God tells me what to do. He went without knowing where he was going. And I don't know about you, but there have been so many times in my life when God has asked me to walk without having any idea where I'm going. When the circumstances don't look good, when things don't look right, but say, okay, God, I'm just going to keep going. I don't understand, but I'm going to keep going. And if you look through all of those, by faith, Abraham, by faith, Isaac, by faith, and in chapter 11, they go through all of these great heroes that lived. And the theme all the way through that was that they stepped out and there was no guarantees. There was no, in this realm, it was purely by faith. And actually, starting in February, we're going to start a series called The Step of Faith. Because I don't think anything happens in your life until there's a step of faith. And we're going to unpack that a lot. But today, how amazed would God be about your faith? Now, I'm going to take it. That is, that is what I've shared that with you every year since a whole long time. I've shared that with you. And it's as true now as it was then. I feel more strongly now than I did then. That there's always a step of faith. and you have to take a step of faith. And it's possible to become a Christian who no longer takes any steps of faith. You want a guarantee. And like we saw, if you have a guarantee, you don't have faith. That's not how this thing works. And so I put this together this morning, but I've known I was going to talk to you about it for quite a while. Because we are going to do something a little different. Now, I just want to give you a little bit of history, keeping an eye on my time because this is where I could get to telling stories and go too long. I told you we're about, actually, it might be 16 years old. I should really figure that out for sure. When we started Rock Church. Now, my gift and my talent, as it were, the thing that makes me as the quirkiest thing about me. When I came to the Lord, when I was going into the 7th grade, that at the beginning of that summer, I had a major encounter with God, and I made a lot of mistakes after that day, and I wasn't very Christ-like, but I never backslid from that moment. I mean, I would do stupid things, make no mistake. But going into the 7th grade, everything changed. I went from this very broken, very angry, very insecure kid, and 3 months later, I wasn't perfect yet, but my wardrobe was Christian T-shirts. Okay, I had Jesus all over my binder, and my friends that I used to get in trouble with, they gave their lives to the Lord, got baptized in the Holy Spirit, and for the next years, I would have a Bible study in my house every week for the next, all the way through high school. That would continue on. And so the but the thing about me has always been, from that very beginning moment, was to reach lost people. And because people without Jesus, can you finish it for me? We said it every Sunday for years and years. People without Jesus go to hell. I carry in my spirit a continuous and pointed revelation of hell. In other words, I don't forget about hell like I know some of my friends do. I make some pastors uncomfortable sometimes. I've been in groups where I've told you that story before, but it's and this is the pastor you guys have, and that'll never change about me. And so, and for years we did that. Jesus, help me to be what you want me to be. Do what you want me to do, because people without you go to hell. We prayed that prayer every Sunday for 14 years. I stopped doing it this year, and I know some of you noticed I suggested I might stop it, and some of you got mad at me, and that really blessed my heart. But I began wondering, I don't know if I'm a tractor or a race car, okay? But I know that I am geared in an extreme way. If there's if one of you guys are in the room and there's a very broken person far away from God over here in the room, my inclination is not to go to you, it's to go to them. And that is just I just do that. I always have. I can't help myself. But what that isn't very good for, and I'm gonna be real transparent with you now, is that a lot of people, a lot of Christians, when they come to church, they want to attention from the pastor. I'll never forget one time we were doing a ministry over the homeless shelter. One of the best outreaches I think our church has ever done. We had about 15 people from our church come, and we scooped ice cream for the whole place. And sometimes what would happen is people would come to that outreach, but they thought they would get to spend time with me in a smaller group. But I was with the guys, and I was kind of like trying to get them. I was trying to disciple by showing, disciple by leading and doing ministry together. 'Cause that's kind of what Jesus did. But I'm not sure that really lends itself to growing a big church, because when you're that is my quandary. That is my the tension in my life, and I'm not. You're never going to have a different pastor than that. That said, when I had my sabbatical last summer, got some space. When I came back this year, I made two pretty major things. I decided to stop hitting everybody right in the forehead every week with hell. By the way, I never offended someone far away from God that I know of. Matter of fact, I remember we had a gal coming, and she's still in our sphere. She just hasn't been to church for a while, but she's a self-proclaimed pagan, and I didn't offend her with that. She introduced herself as, "Hey, I am so and so, and I'm a pagan." And I said, "Well, you blessed me that you come to." She says, "Yeah, I feel so welcome there. You guys love well, just so you know. You love really well." Yeah, I come to Rock Church sometimes because I just feel so accepted. Meanwhile, I'm preaching sin. I'm preaching holiness. I'm saying, hey, people without Jesus go to hell every Sunday. Okay, I think it makes Christians more uncomfortable than it does non-Christians, actually. But I quit doing that. We did something else. I realized that my natural gift is not to is not for community in church. I am outward focused. Again, it's who I am. But at the beginning of this year, you will notice we did no outreach. This year, I decided to take the first part of the year and up to this time here, and to just focus on relationships. We've been bowling, we've done all kinds of fun things and places. We have laughed together. We've filled up Luis's home, and we have belly laughed and had a great time. We've had all kinds of people come to those things, and so what I hoped happened, I think did. We did a good job of laughing together and focusing on the community of church doesn't come naturally to me. So I had to not do any evangelism, otherwise I would have focused all my attention on that. And it was always my plan at the beginning of this year to call a sacred assembly and a holy fast. And let's just read a few Bible verses, would you? Places in the Bible where it talks about this. The Lord said to Moses, give the following instructions to the people of Israel. These are the Lord's appointed festivals, which you are to proclaim as official days. What I do as official days. I screwed this up. There we go. These are the Lord's appointed festivals, which you are to proclaim as official days for a holy assembly. And of course, this right now is a holy assembly. And actually, people say, I don't need to go to church to be a Christian. Okay, technically not. You can make it. I don't know if you can or not. But what I do know is that this idea of Sabbath and going to church weekly, it goes all the way back to here. Verse 3, you have 6 days each day to do your ordinary work. Person I was speaking to during my sabbatical, he says, Scott, you need to have 2 days off a week, and one of them has to be not productive. You have 1 day that I feel I'm a little insecure to tell you what he called it. And he was a minister, by the way. He said, that's your bastard day off. What? He said, that's the day that you mow the lawn. That's the day that you do the clothes. That's the way you fix the sink. But if you want to make it in ministry, Scott, you have to have 1 day a week that is non-functional and do something creative. But it does nothing directly for your ministry or your church or your job. You have to have one day that is just blank. And so this has been, so it's a sacred thing to do exactly that. Now, going on, hear this, you leaders and people, listen. All you who live in the land and all your history, has anything like this happened before? This is Joel, and I didn't write down the verse. It's chapter, I believe it's chapter 6. Listen to all who live in the land and all your history. Has anything like this happened? Tell your children about it in the years to come, and let your children tell their children. Pass the story down from generation to generation. Because after the cutting locusts finished eating the crops, the swarming locusts took what was left. And so this is Joel speaking, and bad things are happening to the people of God. There's famine, there's war, there's terrible things. He yells out, Joel says, wake up, you drunkards, and weep, wail, all you wine drinkers. And the grapes are ruined, and all of your sweet wine is gone. A vast army of locusts, they've invaded my land, and a terrible army, too numerous to count. Its teeth are like lion's teeth. Its fangs are like those of a lion. It has destroyed my grapevines, ruined my fig trees. So this is just a picture that the prophet is painting. It's just bad. It's just hard. It's just not working. Stripping the bark and destroying it, leaving their branches white and bare. Weep like a bride dressed in black. Now, it isn't very comfy. It isn't very touchy-feely. But here the prophet is yelling out the most godly thing that you can do, the most sacred thing you can do is to weep. Mourning the death of her husband, like a bride dressed. The fields are ruined. The land is stripped bare. The grain is destroyed. The grapes are shriveled, and the olive oil is gone. Are you here today? And you've had some moments when you feel like your job is ruined. Your kids are stripped bare. Your bank account is destroyed. Everything you touch turns to poop in your hands. Have you ever felt that way? Maybe you feel like that now. Despair. He just wants to encourage you more here. Despair, all of you farmers, wail. All you vine growers, weep, because the wheat and the barley, all the crops of the field are ruined. The grapevines have dried up. The fig trees have withered. The pomegranates, the palm trees. Dress yourselves in burlap. I don't know about you,